And we're live.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another session of Your Desk University, bringing you live AEC tech experts directly to your desk. It's been so fun to do these. We've done two series. We have a couple more episodes to go. Definitely tune in for those. I just want to point out yet again all the great speakers. Hi, Mark. Nice to see you. John, definitely say hi in the chat so I know who's there. We'll use that during the show if you have questions. If you're tuning in afterwards, go ahead and put your questions in the comments. Our speaker would love to engage with you in that way as well. Definitely don't forget to check our website, look at what's on there, see the last few episodes we've done have been really amazing. I'm going to go here to all past recordings and I can see, Speckle, we learned a lot about the interoperability. It was a really engaging show. The first 20 minutes, I do want to apologize, and especially to those who are tuning in for the beginnings. You are really the committed people, and I guess the audio was not so great. I watched it afterwards, and I'm really sorry about that. But hopefully it's better today. Definitely let me know if you see anything. Also, if you didn't get a chance to tune in for either last week's or the one before that for Open Source for AEC, they were amazing. And definitely check those out. You can go to our website and find the recordings, or obviously on YouTube where you're here. And then don't forget that today we're going to talk about Forge viewers, and next week we're going to do advanced meshing techniques inside of Grasshopper. With that, please subscribe, hit the like button, let other people know that these are things that they want to engage with. If you're finding it helpful, our speakers put a lot of work into this, and that's a good way. That's a small way for you to say thank you. With that, I'm going to introduce our speaker, Viola Cambié. I am so grateful. I hope I said your last name right. I'm so grateful to her being on the show. Manuel was not able to be with us today, and they work together very much, and I know she has all the information to be sharing. But what are we going to be talking about? You can see right above me, Forge viewers for custom applications. If you have been digging a little bit more into Forge and want to figure out how to build your own custom applications, she's really going to go through that. She is an architect. She also has a second master's degree in digital architecture. Is that right, Viola?
Yes, correct.
And you were kind of explaining to me a little bit about how that worked and where you studied. I do, know that a lot of our viewers are in America. We also do reach worldwide. So welcome everyone from either America or worldwide, wherever you are. But I do know that I think you said Shanghai, London, and Italy.
Yes, correct. And also Rotterdam, yes, in the middle.
And Rotterdam.
Yes.
And with that, I'll hand it over. I'm looking forward to seeing what you have to teach us. And I will say, like, if there's any questions, please let us know. We'd love to feed them. And I think you even mentioned that you would take questions after the show on Slack. Is that something?
Yes, of course. If everyone want to, ask something more, I will be there.
That's great. And I know that we may have some connectivity issues with everyone. You're in Italy. I'm in the United States.
Yes.
I don't know where you guys are all tuning in from, but it's amazing that we can even do this. And we'll do the best we can with what we have. So, Viola, with that, let's kick it off.
Okay, so we'll share my screen. Let's see. As soon as you see something.
It's coming across perfectly.
Okay, so maybe this is better. So as you said, we're going to talk tonight about the Forge viewer for a custom application, and just a quick agenda just to introduce the topics. So first of all, I will start with a little introduction just to understand which are the motivations and why we are really doing this. I will go through with you all the toolkit that we need if you want to set up a custom application, and then we will create a sort of use case when we try to exchange information in between our model and then the Forge viewer, of course, but at the same time using Dynamo and Google Sheets. So it's a bit complex, but we will get there. So I think it probably is better if I just introduce a bit myself just to understand what we do. I work with Manuel in Lombardini 22. It is an architecture firm based in Milan. But personally, I work in DD Lab. It is more like a service inside the Lombardini that provide digital services for architecture. We are more focused in like research and development. So we try to improve performances of our colleagues, try to reduce like repetitive tasks, and this with a lot of course, a bit of coding and a bit of software, and this because everything is really focused on a data-driven approach. And I think this probably is the one or the first topic I want to mention to you, because everything that we will do tonight is really related to the idea of a model that is really our source of information. And then because if you think about the way that usually the architectural or the project are done, you have to start with a template. So you have to be compliant with quality, with standards. There are a lot of complexity, a lot of data that you have to think about, and then type of models, and then the information is getting complex and complex. And then you have to, of course, coordinate everything. So there is like really a lot of information in here, and somehow a bit of complexity that you bring with you step by step in your process as till the end. But here, in my opinion, is the risk. So you really risk to lose as soon as you go to like the construction site. As soon as the model is finished, you lose this kind of complexity of layer of information. And I think probably what we have to do is really consider our model as a storage of information, and we can use to. And if you think how great it would be if we can start from a database, let's say, then you can really take information whenever you are in the moment that you need. You can start connecting this information with external services, such as, for example, the Forge Viewer or Google Sheet, for example, and then let all of this information available to the speakers and to the users, general users, and then try to create a really a connection in between the elements, so everyone is synced, the information is always the same, the data, there is only one source of information, and then it's possible. So we can really consider the model as something like this, and this is possible if we start using or creating our own custom application. I borrow your icon just to, as soon as we will talk about the custom application, we will see this icon.
Because you're basically saying like this isn't just a custom Lombardini application. This is a custom
everyone.
Your Desk University
Yes.
application. That's great. So I want to come back to two things that you're talking about here. First, you're talking about your spot at Lombardini. Are you guys only architectural, or do you also have these other disciplines?
Yes, we are really. I just went really quick on who we are, because Lombardini is really complex. We have a different business unit, but not just architect, but also engineer, especially mechanical engineer. We have a team that is focused mainly on, for example, interior design for layout of offices. We have a team that is mainly focused on hospitality, and other on retail. So there are different business units. And I have I'm lucky because I can work with all of them as a team, as a digital team, let's say, inside Lombardini 22.
Yeah. Second thing that I think you brought up that, and I'll let us go forward after this, is an interesting thing about like the model really being the source of truth and construction being able to be done directly from that model. Yes, I know that's a highly debated topic right now. Yeah, and like when are we really going to be able to do it without drawings being the primary source of information? And I'm really fascinated to see kind of how you weave that in, because I know that's really big for us.
Yes, we will try. We'll just try to split this topic because it's really huge, but just to let you understand which are the main elements that you have to keep in mind, and then you can build all the custom application that you need. So start with our custom application. Is a sort of web run in our desktop, and we will see why I'm using these words soon. But I think we can consider like the main layers of infrastructure that we have to build. First, we have the JavaScript, the API. So it's really the brain that is behind the logic of this application, that is able to exchange information in between our model and external services, such as Google or the Forge Viewer. and this will be our source of information that in the end is our model. So coming back just a bit on our application, why we're doing this and why I said, sorry, just come back here, and when I said it is a web that is running in the desktop, because it's an application, it is a native application that, since it's a web, comes with all the main power of a web browser, but at the same time, since it's local, we can really start speaking with our local file system because it's a desktop application. Comes with everything, the power of Chromium, is cross-platform. So as soon as we run and we build something once, then we can use on all the platform. And of course, it's open source, because I will use a lot of open source services, and I can really take advantage of my huge community of coders that share information, and a lot of them, of course, are for free. So this is and you can share yourself. And everything is done using Electron. So Electron somehow is a sort of framework that will let us create a native application using the languages of the web. So it's based on Chromium, it's based on Node.js, and we will see what Node.js is, and use the universal languages that a web browser uses. But as I said, we can create just once, and then we can run on different platforms. Completely forget about everything that is just the hard part of making an application, making installers. Electron we will do like almost everything about this, and then you can really focus on the coding. The main elements are, as I said, the browser side. So even the interaction that we have natively with the browser, and on the other hand, we can create an application that is server based, and this we will use Node.js. And it is really helpful because we can use JavaScript also for the backend and not just for the front end. And everything is made by the team of GitHub. So they really do a lot of work for this. And if you think about all of these apps, all of them are made with Electron. So a lot of stuff really are made using this framework. And really, I think worth to pay a bit of attention. The documentation are really great. So if you want just to start this, I think is a good point. So back to our application. This will
And
be
Electron is all JavaScript based?
Yes, because JavaScript is the brain. Then there is the CSS for the styling, and then the JSON format. That is the way that we can share the data.
Looks like you're one step ahead of me. This was the question I was going for.
And here are the main elements. So we will have the front end, that is everything. So probably I think the people that are watching now, they know already which are the main elements. But I think just worth to notice that we have the front end that is the client side. So everything that is related to the interaction with the viewer, with the web. Then we have the backend. So everything that is work for us and has to process the data and do a lot of the logic that is behind the custom application. And then we have the API. With the API, it means application programming interface, but it's just terms that evoke this front end and back end communication. It's inside the client and the server communication. If you think about the API, is like a sort of a translator that is able to take the information that you ask for, translate this information in a way that the server is able to understand, and then wait for the information from the server and give it back to you. It's something like, for example, the bank ATM, when you want to withdraw money and you go there, you ask an amount of money, and then there is the machine that really do the translation, give to the bank the amount of money that you asked before, and then we'll give back the money, not a digital or a series of 0, 1, 0, 1, but we'll give you the data as you need. So the API will do this for us. And I think this is the element that we will see later is really important if you want to start a communication with external services such as Google or Forge. And this is more or less the way it works. So we have the client, we have the database, and how the REST API works. This is defined through the REST request. With the REST, we think about the post, get, put, a lot of endpoint that you needed to pass to the REST API as soon if you want to have back some information from the server. But we will see, I think, probably better later. And also to understand this application, probably is better to think about a possible use case. I just took this is a Lombardy 22. So this is our office, is an open source, really flexible. And as a research and development team, we used to use this office as a playground. So we translate the proper building in a virtual, let's say in a virtual model. And upon this virtual model, I just we can think about a use case that has 3 types of users that have, of course, different roles. So we have the design team that is more technical and use specific software, like for example Revit or Dynamo. At the same time, we have the asset manager that is more familiar with spreadsheet. So it's something that is not, of course, properly related to the model. And then in the end, we have our user that is more confident with the browser, with the web experience. So how you can make them communicate each other, and how they can really exchange information, the same information that pass through one another, and they sync together with, of course, the virtual model. This comes in action, our application. So the work here will be try to take the information from Dynamo, so from our model, update a Google Sheet, for example, so something that is in cloud. And then from the Forge viewer, we will see this interaction, and we will interact as well with the Google Sheet and then back to Dynamo in a sort of loop.
Because you're kind of thinking about like you have 3 different groups of people, and what's the way that they're used to interacting with design data and everything.
Yes.
Maybe not necessarily design data, but where are they comfortable, and then creating an application that can kind of translate between all 3 places.
Yes, because they don't need to know the tool that the other guys used to use. So they can really just use their software and then be able to communicate with other people without changing really the software they use. So this is the dream, let's say, but I will show you that we can make true. So I think probably it's better to start with the first part. So it's the Revit and Dynamo. Just like a little introduction of what Dynamo is, because I think probably the people that are listening knows already. But Dynamo is a visual scripting tool inside Revit, and really the basic element are the nodes. These nodes comes with the input and output, and every node inside has a kind of function that you can use to make something, let's say. Of course, Dynamo comes already with a lot of nodes that are ready for you, but you can create your custom node. And this is just like the interface where you have to go to create a custom node, give the name, and then we can start creating our node. The main, let's say, action that node will do will be listen or read, let's say, a specific Google Sheet, and then take this information, or for example, just create a connection with the Google Sheet and then write information. This is really up to us. And the main element that we need is as an input will be the first. It is like URL that we will need to make a connection with the Google's API. Then we will need to give to the node as an input the spreadsheet ID, so a unique identifier for a document. And then the range of data that we want to read or we want to write. And to do this, this is just a few lines of code that are inside the node, and they're made in Python. And just to go through a bit what we have to write to make this node working. First, we have to connect and to give him the input, and that I just show you. And as soon as the node has the input, then you have to create your web request in a way that let's say the software and the app is going to expect. So you have to give all the information about the port, all the information, more like specification that will create the web request in the way, and let's say like pack your data in the way that you can transfer this information. And then as soon as the request is ready, then you can start like waiting for a response. This response will come from the Google services, and then you will be able to translate this response like in a JSON format so you can read in Dynamo. And then we will see that we will have like as an output the data that are related to a specific ID, so a specific Google Sheet, and then a specific range of column or row. And to do this, I think it's better if we just jump into the Google API, so we can start considering how we can create this connection. The Google Sheet API, or in this case, what we will expect from the Google Sheet will be like the asset manager that looks as in his document. He has like a table with a row with columns, and you want to make or be updated about the workstation or the monitor. And this is something that can come straight from, for example, from a model or Revit model. So this is how we can, or where we can extract information from Revit and then put inside the Google Sheet, just to update this list. And this is possible first if we create an application, Google. So if we go in the Google Sheet platform and we log in inside, then we will have this kind of interface. Then we can create a new project, give a name to the new project, enable the API services, and of course there is a library really huge with all of the services that you can think about of Google. Then are free, and you are free to use them. But in this case, we just need the Google Sheet API. So you have just to enable them on your application. And then as soon as this the application is ready and has the API and the connection with the API, I think the last step will be create like an authentication, so an authorization account. Google give you like the possibility to make a different kind of authorization and authentication, but if you want to make our application directly speaking with Google, going with a sort of a Google account identity probably is the best way. So what you have to do is to create account, then you will download a JSON file that is like the JSON with all the credentials that you need, and then you have to store in a safe place, because your application will need this JSON file to make the authentication and the authorize the request. And we will see how. So then the last part, as soon as we have this Google account identity, then we are ready to share our Google Sheet with him, because it really comes as an identity. So he has a proper email. And as soon as we share the document with him, we are ready to go. So just to jump a bit in the code. In the code, as I said in the beginning, we have different layers. So we have the backend that will be the brain behind everything. As soon as we download the JSON file, we have to store inside our root of folder in our code. So this is our JSON file with the Google credentials. Then related to Google, we will have like the folder of everything that is like a Google API oriented, and then the backend. For the backend, as I just mentioned in the beginning, I will going to use Node.js. Node.js is an environment that will let us create application using JavaScript, both for the front end and the backend. So really is able to reduce the difference, and let's say also the distance in between the backend developer and the front-end developer, and comes with the NPM. NPM is the Node Package Manager, and is this huge really community of coders that share a piece of code, and will help us like also download libraries from the web. So they comes together. And as soon as you go on the, it's for free. And as soon as you go on the website, then you have to just choose which like operating system you have. You download, you just follow the like the steps to download. Just remember to choose to download also the NPM package manager. And then as soon as you finish, I think probably with a small exercise, I can show you how the experts work with Node.js. So first, you can create an application. So with on the prompt of command, just create like a new folder, for example, my app. As soon as you are there, then you have to initialize with the npm that we have just installed a package. So you have you will have like a sort of definitions and the descriptions, like the name, the version, everything you can just skip or you can fill. You are able to fill also later if you want. And then you will have in your tree of the project this file that is called package.json, and inside here there are a lot of all the description, the definition, the specification of your application. Now we are ready to create our server that will help us show the hello world on the web. And we will use npm that we have just installed, and then we are going to install Express. Express is a framework and is really easy because it will help you to create like a sort of really simple server for you in Node.js. We can install it just with the npm line of code, and then just this line of code we are able to go with a super simple custom application really that will first of all require Express, so we can include inside our application like the proper server. Then we can initialize just calling an app that is equal to our Express that we have just installed. We can define a port. In this case, it's a 3000, but you can use the number that you prefer. And then we just say to the server to listen at this port and just be aware that as soon as we start communicate with the server will has to give back something. And for example, with this app.get at slash, so there is like a simple endpoint. We are just asking to the server to send back a request, a response, and this response will be the hello world. So just going to the web, a local host, in this case, port 3000, and then we will have the hello world back. And if we run our other application, just calling with the node, just calling the name of the file that we have just written, then we will have this as a result. So this is just to understand how easy it can be with Node.js and Express create like the basic of an application. It is server based, and then we can start communicate with the browser. And this is just because the API and let's say infrastructure is based on the use of URL, and the URL is really we can split in different sections, but this is the main way we can communicate with the browser. And this is every time that we do like a search on the web, this is how an API probably, not probably, but for sure is listening to our request and then is ready to send the data that we need to the server of the service and then give us back the information that we want. And the URL is as here. I just split it just to be more just to make everything like simpler,
a little more helpful.
Yeah, and more helpful is just to understand we have a protocol. So the HTTP or HTTPS is we need to say in which way we are going to make this communication. Then we will need the host. It is like, for example, localhost in this case, and a port that will on which the server is going to listen and wait for something that comes from the front end. Then there is the section of the page, so we say to the server where he has to go to take this information. And in the end, there is the query string that is the key value parameters that we are going to pass to the query, to the API. Just go there and then give me this kind of information. So this is just the basic of the communication using the API. And this is something that we saw before. And the main thing that you can do are related to the REST. So you can create, read, update, delete. So as soon as you see CRUD, usually is CRUD REST request is just how the API works. Okay, so I think just come back to the server now. So of course, now we've just seen like a small, a little server, but is really the basic of something of the one that we have for our custom application. So here we have a server.js that is like the main.js that we saw before, and we have the same element that using Express. So first of all, you have to install like libraries from npm that will help you work with with all the information, all the like the software. Then here are the same line of code that we wrote before. So we require Express. We say to the server to listen at a certain port, and we use also the body parser. Sorry. First, this node, you will see process.env because usually it's better if you create like an env.js file. This is something that will be hidden from GitHub, but you can put here a lot of your like client, for example, secret,
Your
or
secrets, your
credentials
authentication
or something.
information, how to
Yeah,
access
will
your
be,
server.
yes. And in this case, also the port is not necessary, but if you want just to be clean, just go through the code. Then we will use body parser. This will be for translating the information that are coming. More or less the same as we did in Dynamo, just to be aware that information comes back and forth in the way that the server is going to read. And this is just a package that you can import from npm and then listen to a port. So it's really the same basic line of code that we create before, and we have here to make up and running our server. And here the Google API. So according to the Google API, let's say the basic element are, first of all, include the library of Google that comes with different endpoint. In this case, we're going to use the Google Sheet. Then we will need the key for the authorization call, and this key comes from the JSON file that we have downloaded before from the credentials of the Google identity. And we will need to specify the scope. The scope are like an array of the application should be granted access to. So are like an array of elements that will let our request be accepted by the service. And then we have the JSON Web Token, in this case at the Google. So is Google already has this structure in place that will help us. These are the Google credentials that I told before, but we will go here. So Google already makes for us like a sort of like connection that will authorize your application. So we have our server application, in this case our app. We ask for a JSON Web Token that is a real standard for authorize and for the authentication of the application. Using JSON Web Token, and we can ask for the Google service to be authorized. And Google service will recognize us because he gave us the credentials and everything. So we will say, Google, here we are, just let us authenticate. And as soon as we are authorized, he will give us back a token, and from now on, we can use this token to make the proper request of data from Google. But this part is just like a standard that every time that you need to speak with external services, you have to make this authentication. And with the Forge will be the same.
I was going to say it's like the same with Forge. It's just for the authentication to kind of be owned by someone separate from you.
Yes. And the same is for Google, because really as soon as you speak with API, then is the standard, let's say. Okay, and this is the one of the like the posts they get that we saw before. I just show one of them because using like creating this connection with the server, now we are ready. And as soon as we are authorized from Google, then we are ready to ask and to start the communication with Google. So first of all, we will have an authorization, and as soon as we are authorized, we can start creating our own request body. The element that we are passing to Google are the one that we have created in Dynamo. So they are the spreadsheet ID and the ranges of data that we want. We create our request, then we give to Google, and we will wait for the response. This response will be the data that we have asked in a certain column or a certain row. And using the sheets.spreadsheet.get or .post or all the type of codes that we can find in the documentation of Google, and just give to this request the correct body, then we are then able to get back the response and send back to Dynamo. And this is how we do. So considering our node that we have just written, then we are now able to include the ID of the spreadsheet. That is this piece here. I'm not really sure why it's not clear which is the ID of Google. You have just to go on the URL and take that part, but that is the ID of your spreadsheet. And then you can choose the range. It is the page, let's say, of your Google Sheet. And as soon as you refresh the node, you run Dynamo, then you will get back the result with the data that you need.
And is that
And
your own custom Google Sheets?
yes,
Custom node,
really,
or is
yes.
that something that's on the package manager?
No, it's a custom node. It's a custom node, but it's just made with that piece of Python, and then
That you
that
showed us.
create the web request, read the input, create the request the way that you can send them to the server, and then you have the output. And since there is our custom application in the background that open a server that is listening for this communication, so then we will be able to speak with Google.
Nice.
To speak, to read or write. This is really up to you. So I think that we come to so the last part, that will be the interaction with Forge Viewer, and everything that we saw until here is just like a steps that really help us to create the application with Forge. Autodesk Forge is like a platform of web API that Autodesk gave us. It's not just the viewer, because you can really interact with the model, extract information. There are model derivative, design automation. There is really a lot of action that you can do with Forge. But in this case, we're just using model derivative API. So it's something related to take information for the model, translate files, read data, and of course visualize your model on the web. As we did for Google, is almost the same. So you have to create your own app that was a project for Google, but here is an app. You have to choose which are the API that you want to use during the life of your application. This application will give you the credentials as Google gave us before in a JSON file. Now we have just client ID and client secret. It is something that you have to store in a very, very safe place, because you will need them to. And yes, these are
not showed on YouTube Live, right?
These are fake. But just to store, and then you can use them to make requests to to Forge. And the same way, Forge works with 3 elements. So we have the front end, so the main viewer. We will have the Forge API and the backend. The backend is the server that I showed before, but just to see here that as soon as we call the API for Google, and the same way we call the API of Forge. And from now, we will see like how the API with the infrastructure works. So first of all, we have, as we did before, we have to import all the libraries that Autodesk gave us, and to start working and interact with our model. And then here are the API that we have written. With this API, with different like endpoint that the Forge viewer gave us, we are able to do really almost everything with a model that is saved and uploaded online. We can see like our bucket, and with the bucket you can just consider as a folder with all the models inside that are already loaded and translated from by the Forge, by the platform of Autodesk. You can translate your model. You can view the information. You can retrieve data. And the way we can create our application, our app is almost the same as before. So we need to open a server that is already listening for us, be authorized from by Forge. Just give to Forge the client ID, the client secret, so Forge can recognize us. Just include the scope that are like permission that will be connected with the token, and create this authentication process. It is a bit different from Google, because now we are working with OAuth 2. It is just works as the same. So we will need to first, our app give to the server, like Autodesk, the client ID, client secret, and the scope, 3 elements. Then will be authorized from, in this case, Autodesk Forge, will give us the access token, and then from this access token we can start speaking, creating our application, and giving and receiving back the data that we
And
need.
this way you're able to read and write directly to a Revit model, as long as it's on BIM 360, right? Because that's kind of where Forge Just for those,
Yeah.
I know the majority of people watching this are going to know that, but just for those who don't,
Yes,
like this is
just
kind of the way
for
to interact with that Revit model if it's in BIM 360.
yes, of course, because in this case, our model was in like just in a bucket,
Mm-hmm.
saved in the Forge bucket. But of course, you will have your own API to read the model straight from the 360. Yes, and the front end, the front is everything that is related to the viewer.
Mm-hmm.
So in this case, we have just a list of URN that is like the translation of our model inside the platform, like the Forge platform. And with this translation, Revit is Autodesk is going to translate into SDF and give us back like a way. The URN is really similar to URL, let's say, but the place and where you you ask that information, you are sure that information is always there, and is a way they can encode the model. Then you can start working with your model that are uploaded before. And in this case, as I said, our models that are uploaded in the bucket. Then we can start our authorization process. So we can give the credentials that we received before, and then as a callback, of course, is like a success. Then we can start process and really start the initialization of our model. And the function of initialization is made by different steps. First of all, we have to start the viewer with the viewer.start. It is a method that Autodesk gave us, and we have to invoke just the first time, just to make the viewer like listening and ready to communicate with us. Then we have to load the geometry, and this is a function that comes with a callback as well. And as soon as the callback is success, so this is like an event. So wait until the geometry is loaded, and as soon as it's loaded, then we can set extension. With extension, I mean everything that with JavaScript you can write. So just to make your viewer working more like efficiently, you create your own toolbar. You can give the viewer a different like custom action, and we will see some of them later. And as soon as the document is loaded, so you can choose the one of the model that you have uploaded on your bucket. And as soon as this model is loaded, then you can start configure the viewer and choose the viewables. The viewables are like the element of your Revit model that you want to show in the viewer. And in the end, you can finally load the model inside the viewer. So this is just as, I don't know if maybe someone never saw like a viewer in action. This is just something that you can like show. You have your model, you have a custom. Usually, this is like a toolbar that comes already with the viewer, but you can create your own, as I said, your own extension. Here, just for us, because it was just easier, we create like a list of specific extension that we can switch on, switch off when we need. And as soon as we decide which is the extension that you want, you will have like a custom toolbar to do stuff. Then you can color, I don't know, element. You can pick something, you can read a specific or select specific element. You can, for example, create like a mini map that will help you, like guiding you inside the viewer as soon as you go. You can upload like a render, for example, a 360 render or video, because you can also upload like external links, such as, for example, Power BI. This is just a link embedded inside the viewer, but I know I'm not just not try yet, but now there is the possibility to interact directly with Power BI inside the viewer and back and forth. So this is really cool. And I have a couple of video. So just to see the last part in action, let's see if
Make sure.
if it's possible. I don't know if you see the.
I'm not seeing video yet.
Stop. Maybe I will share this.
But thank you so much for sharing all these details. I feel like people are gonna, watch this multiple times because of all the content. Is it gonna be possible to see some of that code?
Probably not sure, because it's something that we develop internally. But I think, of course, everything I will post on Slack, and everything that I've just shown is something that, of course, you can reuse from starting from the node of Dynamo.
Yeah, that's
then
mostly what I'm talking about. Exactly.
You can just follow the stuff, because the main point of this presentation was really just to explain which are the basics that you have to keep in mind if you want to start creating your application. So let's see if we can.
Yep, that's running. So on the left is your Forge viewer.
Okay, it's Forge viewer, yes. And then this is for Lombardini 22. So welcome in our office.
In a safe, socially distanced sort of way.
Yes, there's
from around the world.
One here, one there. And on the right, there is a Google Sheet. So here, the idea is to interact with the model. So just to pick like one of these assets and start like typing or writing like information according, for example, an issue could be, or everything that you need. It is important to be stored like in a Google Sheet. And then as soon as you connect the ticket with the element of the viewer, then you are ready to save this ticket, and you will see in the view in the Google that the row that is going and is updating in that moment is related to the ID of the element. So you will have like a sort of connection from your model to Google Sheet. And this possibly, if you want, you can then read the Google Sheet from Dynamo. So, and then you have you close really the loop somehow.
Yeah, this is fascinating. It just makes me like, Forge has been always something that I understood a fair amount, but not like really in depth. And I think like your presentation with Manuel and Built Europe kind of got me started into kind of curiosity a little bit more about this. So
Great,
thank you for that, definitely, and thank you for this. But I started realizing like you really could, like, Revit almost becomes just one of the applications that works on your model when it comes to Forge. It's just one front end viewer with one way of editing the model. There's, over the next few years, there's going to be tons and tons of other, applications that can directly manipulate your BIM 360 models. As long as the API is available for those changes you're looking for.
Yes, correct. You don't have, I think, to see the Forge viewer just as a viewer. I think the power is just to consider your model as a source of information. It is full of data, and then try to extract piece of information, connect with external services, go back and forth. I think that probably is, yes, the power of this. Let's see.
Well, I've got, as you're pulling up your next thing, I've got a couple questions for you. First, the topic of PDF versus model is an interesting one, and we have a question with regards to just maybe we can just talk about that. I want to kind of like talk specifically around the idea of the why in the future, or why even now, we might think of models, or why we would want models to be the primary source of truth, and not, a set of PDF documents. Any thoughts on that? I mean, I have strong thoughts, but I'll let you field that question first.
In my point of view, because the probably as quick as the model change, so we really have to be like synchronized somehow with everything that is happening on the model. And if you think like the life of something that is moving, is changing, is growing, just use like PDF or something that is also is not related to versioning. So it's really hard to know which is the latest document. And then you have just to come back to your email, for example, and pick the model. And then you put like a name V1, V2, B11, B22. So I think we really need something that will help us to control like the versioning, and to control the development of the model. So probably try to stick to the model can help, or maybe not just the only.
Yeah, I mean, I think PDFs and Bluebeams have done so much to help us access that. but when it comes to like the amount of information that a model can contain with regards to virtually building the actual construction, a PDF really is just one person's interpretation of that model,
Yeah, I think,
and it's
probably it's
lacking
not
in
enough.
tons of information. And so I know it's a highly debated conversation, but I mean I think the debated part is like when are we going to see everything being model driven? You know, when are we going to see, you know, like, I mean, yeah, on more and more projects. And I think in the United States, at least, it's often driven by the permitting offices, where the permitting office requires these PDF drawings, and so the construction team is ready to build off the models. And this is into a whole other topic, so maybe we'll pause that there because it can get into legalities and there's so many other pieces. That's a whole nother your desk.
Maybe it's better.
Yeah, let's jump back to a couple of the questions about this specifically. And by the way, you don't know it, but Manuel, I sure hope I'm saying his name right, but he joined us in the chat and he's answering some of the questions. So thank you.
Okay.
Welcome. Good to see you. It's too bad you couldn't be live with us. But you could see Viola did like an amazing job on this whole thing. So yeah, definitely. So a couple other things here. So learning Forge and learning how to interact with it. Do you have any thoughts on good ways to get into that? He mentioned the accelerator. Do you have any other thoughts on learning more about the Forge API?
Yes, I would say accelerator first, and then probably now the developers really did a really good job, because now the tutorials are amazing. At the beginning, I can say, and they know there were not enough documentation, and sometimes documentation really was updated to the latest version, so there were like a bit of confusion. But now I think they are making really a good job. So first, go to the blog of Forge, is update, and they show a lot of little tutorial, and they are really easy to follow. And then I think probably the tutorial that they have like on their website, and the accelerator, it is a really good way to really be involved with the coder and with the developer of Forge. And then it's just 1 week, super intense, but I think they really help you to improve your ability and just help you to, I don't know, answer your questions, and it's a good way to learn.
So the next question is going to probably come out of maybe my own ignorance with web development. I've done a little bit, but not a lot. So when you're doing the token authentication, right? You talked about doing that even from your local host. So is that communication back, that token back, is that happening at the same time that you're getting it back from Google, or does Google speak to your app, you know, a few seconds later, and do you have to keep something open, maybe some ports or anything on your local server in order to receive those tokens and those authentications back? Again, this might be coming from some of my, you know.
No, it's true. You just you have to think about the token that is expired. So probably what do you think, or what you are thinking, is just a token that comes and then you have to ask again. So there is something that you can automate. For example, Forge Viewer help you with it. So you can ask for a token, and as soon as you have the token, then you can store, for example, in database, if you want to connect to a database, and then you can request as soon as the token expires. So there is also this kind of communication. But yeah, you can ask them also from your local host. So it's not, you don't need to put the applications in a proper domain, or so it's a communication that as soon as you create the link, then you can.
And so when they're asking for like, I don't remember what they're called, but like talkback URLs and stuff like that, you would just put localhost there as your talkback URL. I might be using the wrong term, so apologies, people.
Okay, but
I'll be vulnerable here and admit, you know, I'm not an expert on everything, and I think that's always good. Let me see here, other questions that came in. Yeah, you're missing some good chat here. He's answering everything for you. So so Node.js, so using JavaScript, and could you talk a little bit more about Chromium? You mentioned it a little bit at the front, but what exactly is Chromium? And then is
I will try.
Yeah, can you tell us a little bit more about Chromium?
Yeah, because as far as I know, the Chromium is inside Electron is like the brain. So it's really is like an environment. So really help you use the power of the web. So everything that you can think about web. So interaction, I don't know, the libraries that you can import inside the web, the viewer, the console log, for example. So everything is really web, like the idea of the window. So everything that comes from the web is included inside Electron. But the power of Electron is also really connected the web with your local file system, because it is a proper desktop application. So you will have like a logo, and if you want, we can put logo of the Autodesk or
the Your Desk
University. You will have your little logo in the desktop with all the other application, and it really runs as a proper app.
And so basically you're creating a desktop application in Chromium, which really makes it a web-based application. I'm trying to translate this again.
It's like a minimum web browser.
A minimal web browser that kind of hosts that application.
Yes, but it's inside your desktop. So this is the power of.
And you showed us interacting with Forge and Google Sheets and Dynamo. So I'm assuming because you were looking at model derivatives, I'm assuming that Dynamo is doing all your changes. You're not actually doing changes inside of Forge. In this particular application. Can you speak more into maybe other areas where you've been working or other areas of development and ways that you've interacted with Forge?
Now, because we use, at the moment, we just use the viewer, as I said, so the model derivative. So it's more related to, for example, just highlight specific element inside the model, or something that we did also was like simulation inside the viewer. So we connect, in this case, the Forge viewer with an engine, like a gaming engine as Unity. So we use the power of Unity to make like a people going around inside Unity, but then we will see like the effect inside Forge. And we will be able to make a connection like this one, for example, from the Forge to Google, but from Forge to Unity. So in Unity, you can run your simulation, because Unity is really good at
the visualization,
recreate like the people flowing. So you can take the information of the point, let's say, that comes from the Unity, and recreate your scene in Forge. And this can be done because it also is easy, and not easy, but is really can help you if you want to go, for example, and just see the viewer like with all the elements animate, and also interact with the animation, but you are still in the Forge viewer. You don't need to see like the Unity working, the IDC. So this kind of interaction. I think as soon as you have like a server, and then you know how to interact with external services, then you can start create like microservices. So really little piece of element that works each other, and don't create like a monolith or something that is huge, and then you can't really deconstruct.
Yeah. Thank you. Thanks for sharing a little bit more about kind of other things you've done. So what about authentication and authenticating your app on BIM 360? For you're on the architectural side, so you own the BIM 360 hub. As a consultant, I typically am on the structural side of things. I don't usually own the hub. I know there's been some talks at Autodesk about how they might be changing that in the future. But with regards to currently, if I as a consultant need to have something working in Forge, do I need to request authentication from you for the app, or just alone for the user, and then that provides enough?
It probably depends on you, because if you're a client and you don't have like BIM 360, then
no. If I have BIM 360, if I'm using your BIM 360 for hosting my models.
Okay, so I think probably no. You can, if it's like this, like a desktop application, you don't need to ask, because you're like using our app, and then you can see your model. So I don't think there will be. Of course, there is like you have to consider that the application is yours, but the model is of the client. So this is, I think, all the.
But like specifically, what do you do for authentication on your end? You have the user, but then don't you have to authenticate the app also, or not?
At first, no, because first you have to. The application is already authenticated inside the Autodesk Forge. Then before the user can enter your application, there will be like a layer of authentication. So just if the user is authenticated to use your application then can enter, and then as soon as is in, the user can start using the Forge viewer. So there will be like a sort of filter before it can enter inside the viewer. So here, this is something that we usually do. So we create the application, but just the user that has the, like let's say, the credentials to use the application can enter. Otherwise, you will not be able to see the viewer.
Interesting. Thank you. Let's see. I've got one more question, and we are on the hour, so we'll be closing out with this one. Everyone, thank you so much. Before you go, hit the like button. Huge thanks, Viola, for all your work you've done. I am still going to get to this question, then I'll do another exit. But
Okay.
what's your learning curve? So learning Forge and web development. I know I know some of the people who are on here are, computational designers. They've learned Python maybe a little bit. Maybe they learned a little bit of C#, some basic web development. But if you were to talk to people, to that group of people, what would you say the learning curve is? And
I think probably the hard part is just entering the mindset. So as soon as you understand which are the main topic that you have to that has to be clear to you, like for example how our REST API works, how, for example, how to create your own server, how to then create and package your application, and then as soon as you are more familiar with it, then you can go quicker. But I know that because I'm not a coder, I'm a coder, but I'm not come from like a let's say I'm not I didn't study really coding.
yeah,
I just
you come from a
studied by
more
myself
informal kind
during,
of learned in practice
yes,
background.
yes, more like architecture background. So it's really, I think, just a matter of problem that you have to solve first of all, because you really need to solve something. Then I think if you are focused, then you can find like the best way. And probably the hard part will be, yes, probably the beginning, just to understand the topic, the basics of
Yeah.
the web development.
Well,
And
thank you
then as
so
soon as you
much.
are, then you go.
Yeah, there you go. So that's all we need to do. That and we're good. You are
Yes.
going to post the presentation. Thank you for sharing that with us. There's so much good information in there. I know I'm going to have to scrub through it again. I've learned a lot, and I think I might, take a stab at some of these pieces that you've been sharing. Thank you for, I think, is it midnight your time?
No, 10.
10. Oh, 10. Not so bad. Not
Yes.
too bad. But still,
Not
thank
too
you so
bad.
much for giving up a portion of your
Thank you.
evening. Everyone, thank you for being with us, and we will see you again next week.
Okay.